I could clearly hear Rena sobbing from the other side of the paper door. Why was Michan made the successor to demons? Maybe it's just had to happen that way, but it's just so awful. Something hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last of my time I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times, then left, and Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this? Can I hold your arm? It was such a modest request. I don't mind. With my permission, her face lit up with glee like a child being given a toy, and took my arm. Do you get kind of nervous with your arm through mine? You're not thinking, for example, that I'd suddenly put you in a world-class lock joint or anything? You two say the same things. I don't think that. At all. Back when nothing had gone wrong yet, during those nostalgic days of bustling commotion at Angel Mort, I counted back and was amazed. It had only been 1 week ago. I had been arm in arm with Shion then, too. Linking arms with Mion like this, I recently reminded me that they were twins. How much strength they put into it, the sensation of their arms, their warmth, and the blood flowing. I could feel that their living sensations were all exactly the same. I think Shion liked you, Ki-chan. I see. If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back right in the face. Right now, though, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace. Mion and Shion, you got along well, didn't you? Well, I wonder. Ki-chan, do you think your right hand and left hand get along? Huh? My right hand and left hand? I don't think you could describe them as getting along or not. That's how our relationship is. You can't measure it by a scale of how well we get along. That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well. For example, one of your hands is dominant, so there will always be a better hand. If you only had one of them, you would put it on your dominant hand without thinking, right? I think maybe it was like that for us. That doesn't mean, though, that anyone would be okay with losing their left hand. It's kind of It's that kind of unexplainable relationship. I think that maybe you've lived too close together and just stopped being able to see it, but I think that means you got along really well. I'm an only child, so the day before the festival, I was really jealous of when you and Shion were messing around with each other. I think you're jealous of something that doesn't exist. Yes, we were twins, and we used to have a lot of fun playing tricks on people. But now that we have such distinctly different personalities, it just gets in the way. Were they cursed, or were they self-conscious? Their relationship was hard to understand for an outsider. Maybe that wasn't an issue someone like me should intrude on. Just staying silent and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Mion passed through the wide yard and invited me into a big, desolate forest we had seen on the way in. Such a big forest was part of their property, so I couldn't help but feel small. It's huge. You must have had a great time playing in it as kids, huh? Mion seemed to be silently reminiscing. I couldn't look into her mind, but she was probably thinking back to those fun days when they played as sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, it caressed the treetops and the leaves, making a swishing, murmuring sound. Mion remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she had gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, was enough. Mion suddenly stopped and turned. Shion is still alive. Really? Mion took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly. Yeah. I'd been thinking to give her the most horrible death of all, so I had her locked up. I never did think of a good way to do it, though. Mion sounded as though she hated Shion, but also, deep down, didn't completely detest her. So, I took my other hand and rustled Mion's hair with it. Mion didn't only save me, she saved Shion too. Mion may have become a demon and led many people to their deaths, but she fought against it and was able to save 2 people. As I petted Mion, she narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile, and untangled her arm from mine. Then Mion quietly said, "Come with me. I want you to see all of my sins. Although, Ki-chan, it might be the worst thing you've ever seen." I could sense it. There I would probably find all of the sacrifices up until now. Looking at them would mean accepting Rika-chan and Satoko's deaths, as well as accepting that my best friend had done it. It's already happened, and it's in the past. What? It's already happened, and it's in the past. You can choose not to look, Ki-chan. If you don't want to, then wait here. I will personally end everything. I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remembered what Rena had told me. Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I'd agreed to her last request, didn't I? Even if it was hard for me to accept, I'd still do it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened. It doesn't matter what I see. Yes? Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. That won't change. It never will. The treetops softly swayed in the wind. You and Rena both. Why do you only get to really cool at... You and Rena both. Why do you only get to really cool at times like this? Normally I'd say something rude right back at her, evading the question, but today I didn't. I just answered with a smile. At last, Mion started walking, into the thick forest, into the deepest part. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, we finally came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine or bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills. It had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. There were many silhouettes of crows in the trees here and there. The abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside this place. If you want to turn back, now's your chance. I don't know what kind of person Mion Sonozaki is to you, but if you go inside, that Mion will probably... She won't change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. I clenched my fists. Inside there was probably a sight beyond anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and this suffering. It'll never change. That Mion is my greatest friend. I am nothing more than a demon, so I don't understand human feelings anymore. I have a feeling, though, that I know why Mion fell in love with you. Don't say that like it's not related to you. You're Mion. You're not a demon. You're a human with human blood, and you're my friend. Mion made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, then placed a hand on the big door of the tunnel entrance. The lock on it was dauntingly strong-looking. It seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, a stifling, rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remembered accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank on the porch, and that's how intense the odor it left was. If that was the smell of a corpse, then that's certainly what this smelled like. Inside, it was pitch black, but Mion flicked a switch that turned on a light bulb illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. We passed spaces that looked like they were for storage. We passed a place that looked like someone had lived there. All this indicated that this had been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give me an impression of a dugout bomb shelter that had been left here, though. There was a sense of dignity, as though this were a second Sonozaki house constructed underground. Despite being in pitch darkness below the ground, the voices of the cicadas were entering through an air hole somewhere, giving it a very mysterious feel. You saw what was in the ritual storehouse, right? The piles of torture instruments? All of them were created to uphold the strict religious laws of Onigafuchi village. They were tools used to kill those who broke laws in terrible ways as a warning to others. That was a long time ago. Watanagashi, originally a ritual meant as a deterrent, was once overseen by the three families. But thanks to the Kimiyashi and Furude families going into decline, and the way the times changed, actually carrying it out became difficult. I can imagine why. You never think people would be okay with drowning people in a swamp and killing them in modern Japan. That's why the Sonozaki family built this. A secret place so that we could continue to conduct the rite of Watanagashi even in modern times. Mion opened a large, strikingly different door, and inside was none other than a modern storehouse for ritual implements. There's quite a few in here, isn't there? Some of them were actually brought here from the original storehouse. All of these things there had been rusty and covered in dust, so they didn't seem that real. But the things in here were different. Every one of them had been well maintained and kept in a state that they could be used right away. Blades gleamed and spikes were sharpened. Also, perhaps as a precaution for the splatter of blood, the walls and ceilings were covered in the kind of tiling you would see in bathrooms, and there was even a drain set amidst the slight slope in the floor. There was also a coiled rubber hose along the wall attached to a faucet, perhaps for cleaning up the splattered blood. According to something the leader from a long time ago wrote, blood splatter has impact despite the fact that it doesn't tax the surface. Watanagashi was meant as a deterrent after all. My ancestors thought up all kinds of different things to show off. As soon as she said that, Mion pointed deeper into the torture room, to a spot veiled in darkness. There was surprisingly a room floored with tatami mats, and in the corner was a pile of cushions. There are seats for the audience. Watanagashi was meant as a deterrent after all. It wouldn't make much sense if there were no guests. I couldn't speak, and I couldn't think of anything to say anyway. Except that if Mion revealing all of this to me made her heart feel any lighter, then I was prepared to listen for as long as I needed to. Right here. This is where I killed everyone. There were no spectators to watch me, but I did the Watanagashi very well. Well, perhaps there was one spectator. Huh? A spectator? Me. I, the demon, was watching the entire time Mion held the Watanagashi ceremony. Mion cackled in self-deprecation. It wasn't a nice-sounding laugh. Back there is the prison. Is Shion there? She nodded slightly. Mion's Watanagashi had ended today. I needed to tell Shion that I was safe without a moment's delay. After all, she was probably trembling in fear at this very moment, worrying about when she would be killed. The ostentatious odor on the other side opened, revealing what must have been an incredibly expansive space based on the echo it made. Mion groped around in the darkness, and a handful of naked light bulbs came on here and there. As my eyes adjusted, more and more of the great cave showed itself in the faint light. The walls were a bare rock surface, and it felt so savage that a bomb shelter was the most apt term for it. There were small barred rooms built here and there like holes made by insects biting their way through a giant piece of fruit. It was immediately clear that each one of them was a prison. Where is everyone? Rika-chan and Satoko. Their corpses. I grimaced at her having said that so outright. Yeah, that's right. The poor things being left here in the dark like this. I didn't want them to get infested with bugs, so I threw them down the well. I'm sorry. So I can't even see their faces in death. Once again, my feelings of regret at having confessed everything to Rika-chan came surging forth. If Mion hadn't attached the word... the word sorry to the end of what she had said, I might have punched her. Short thing. There's a lot of talking in this one. Calm down, Kiachi Mabara. You said it yourself. No matter what, Mion Sonozaki is your greatest friend. Yeah, my greatest friend. I needed to hear myself say that out loud. Then came the clattering of bars in one of the cells deeper in. When I noticed it, I looked up as well. Shion! Is that Shion? Ki-chan? Is that you, Ki-chan? I ran over to the cell. White hands were peeking out from the gaps in the bars. It really was her. Are you alright, Shion? Are you hurt? No! Shion's face twisted out of shape as she screamed. It was because Mion had appeared right behind me. Of course. Shion didn't know that everything was over yet. Calm down, Shion. Everything is already over. Everything. I spoke in a calm voice as I could manage and tried to soothe the agitated Shion. However, it didn't seem like it was getting through her screams. Shion, how have you been? No more, please. No more. I don't want to see anyone else die. If you hate me, then just kill me already. I'm the one you hate, right? Kill me! Kill me right now! Sis! Calm down, Shion. It's all over now. It's going to be alright. So calm down. Shion, who was screaming and rattling the iron bars back and forth, was truly in a frantic state. I gave the silent shrug of resignation, giving way to Mion. I had realized that if Mion was the one who locked her in here, and if Mion was the one who had scared Shion this much, then Mion was also the only one who could put an end to this. Mion spoke from over my shoulder. Quietly. Relax. I won't kill you. No, I won't kill you just yet. She burst out into a bizarre laugh as if trying to make Shion's madness even worse. Shion broke out into a fierce shiver brought on by that laugh and rattled the iron bars as she wailed. Please stop! Don't kill Ki-chan! Ki-chan has nothing to do with this, does he? If you're going to kill someone, then kill me right now! I don't want to see anyone else die! You want to die that badly, even then after I've killed this man, I'll take my time making mincemeat out of you. In accordance with the ancient rites, I'll do it slowly, starting with your extremities. I'll shave you down and mince you. I had that mincing machine set up specifically for you, after all. Or would it be funnier if I were to mince up Ki-chan right in front of you? Hey, quit it already! What do you have to gain by scaring her at this point? No! Ki-chan, run away! I tried to rebuke Mion for flinging terrible words at her at this late game, but when I turned around, Mion's mouth, so much so that it was hard to believe, had twisted into a shape even thinner than a crescent moon. It was a smile. I could sense it like a jolt of electricity. The person here wasn't my best friend Mion. It wasn't the Mion Sonozaki who had been tossed about by her heavy duty of succeeding the Sonozaki family either. Then, who was she? Bam. I saw sparks flying before my eyes, like what happens when you get hit in the back of the head. The strength in my body drained instantly and my head suddenly became heavy. My knees buckled under the temptation and hit the floor. Then my whole body abruptly collapsed. My face should have hit the floor, but it was comfortable as if I'd fallen down on as if I had fallen onto a down-filled futon. My consciousness reeled and then receded. It was the kind of sensation like if you took a nap in the car, but you were still half awake and could listen to your parents talking as if they were far away. No, you wouldn't be listening, you would only be hearing it. It was happening so far away, and the conversation was completely unrelated to you, so you would have no interest in it. So whether Shion was yelling in my ears or Mion was in vulgar hysterics, I didn't think it annoying, nor did it interest me. Now then, I wonder how I should go about preparing you. Oh yes, what do you think of a bed of nails? I tested it on the two little brats, but their hands were too small for their restraining table. Let's do that! Let's do that! Mion held me up from behind and dragged me across the floor. The soles of my feet scraped on it and one of my shoes fell off. No! Please stop it, sis! Please, stop! Shion's emotions exploded outward and she burst into bitter weeping. As if her crying had whetted Mion's interest, she held me, flung me, and returned to the prison cell again. My, you sure can cry with a cute voice, can't you? Your unnatural bravado was making my skin crawl, but it definitely suits you the best. Mion, my big sister, I beg you. I don't care how you choose to kill me, but please, at least let Ki-chan go. I'm begging you. Shion had always acted as though she were a cut above her older sister. That Shion in such a miserable voice that I couldn't have imagined it during those peaceful times. Prostrated herself before the older sister she used to scoff at and pleaded forgiveness. Mion looked down with an expression of cool indifference, one that was plainly smiling with joy. I wasn't planning on listening to your petty wishes. The way you're crying, though, is just too funny. I think maybe I'll change my mind and listen to you. Since, come to think of it, I never did anything big sister-like for you. Yes. Thank you so much. Alright then, let's hear you apologize for everything. Then, maybe I'll let it all be water under the bridge. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let Ki-chan go. Mion said she might let me go, but she never said anything about letting Shion go. Before long, Shion got on her hands and knees behind the bars and began to speak weak words of apology. They were too faint for me to hear, but their intention got across. Despite having watched her with magnificently jubilant expression, Mion kicked the bars and declared she was unsatisfied. You think you can make up for years of grudges and hard feelings like that? That will just not do. I guess I'll make mincemeat out of you both. No! Wait, sis! One more chance! Just one more chance! Mion stopped and waved her hand again in resignation. Not because she had grown impatient, but only because she was taking delight in abusing Shion. You can't apologize to my satisfaction anyway. I'll teach you how to make an apology that will get through to your older sister. I'm only going to tell you once, so if you get it even a letter wrong, you're out. Got it? Yes. Thank you, sis. Shion's miserable voice cried out, having become utterly hoarse. The sensation tearing through my chest returned a little at a time. I realized it was feelings of anger bubbling up. I was slowly regaining control of my body. However, I was only able to feel my skin and my blood flowing at the moment. I still couldn't voluntarily move my fingers. Did you memorize it? Then, let's hear you say it! Sincerely and faithfully from beginning to end, with all of your heart. If you can do it properly, then I'll only kill you. Yes, thank you so much. Something was strange. Something had become strange at some point. Until just a few moments ago, I was sure this had been Mion, but at some point she had become someone else. The Mion I knew well would never do something so nasty like enjoy trampling all over someone's dignity like this. Now, let's hear it. Your big sister is listening closely. Shion Sonozaki is... When I ran over to Shion's cell earlier, I had the real thing been swapped out with a fake right behind me. Anyway, this couldn't possibly be Mion. Shion Sonozaki is a lowly, worthless sow, not even fit to lick her big sister Mion's feet. And when I think of the countless times that I've been rude to my big sister without knowing my place... Yes, that's the spirit. I'll permit you to say a little more now, okay? Blood circulated through my whole body. My numb senses were returning. Just a little more. While Shion was still holding Mion's... No, that thing pretending to be Mion's attention. Hurry up. I reflect on how impertinent I've been. I swear loyalty to my big sister Mion for the rest of my life. So, Mion's burst of laughter echoed throughout the big cave, growing to a terrifying level. That was not the laugh of someone who was alive in this world. It was none other than the laugh of a demon from the bowels of the earth. She laughed from her stomach until she grew tired of it and stopped smiling suddenly, as if snipping a wire. Alright already. That was funny enough for me. I didn't think you'd throw away that much of your pride. That was plenty enjoyable. Mion began to drag me again after I finally got the feeling in my body back and pulled me towards the torture chamber. Sis! Only kill me! Please forgive him! Don't worry, alright? I'll be sure to kill you real good. After letting you get an earful of Ki-chan's screams, that is. No! After dragging me to the torture chamber, she skillfully strapped me into the restraining table. Before I knew it, I was sprawled out and bound. She forced open my hands, with which I couldn't even make a satisfying fist, and tightly restrained each one of my fingers. She fastened only my hands and my fingers at that tightly with hinges and locked them in place. Sis! Don't kill him, sis! The door to the big cave with the jails had been left open, so I could hear Shion's cries of mortification the entire time. Can you hear it, Shion? I'm going to get started now. Please enjoy Ki-chan's young screams. Give it a fucking rest. The feeling in my body returned, and the first action I took was to tell off that thing that looked like Mion. Awake at last, are we? I lied before, you know, about having wanted to give Shion the most miserable death of all, but locking her up because I hadn't thought of a good way yet. That was a lie. Mion brought over something that looked like a toolbox. From inside it, she removed a large metal hammer, and next to it, she began to line up what looked like a long, strangely shaped nails whose ends had been turned into hooks, like the kind you'd see in a harpoon. I'll let her hear the screams of all those people that died because of her, and after they've soaked into her very soul, then I'll kill her. I've got pretty good taste, huh? Who are you? Huh? I'm Mion. Mion Sonozaki. Has the fear driven you crazy? No, you're not. There's no way you can be Mion Sonozaki. Mion snorted and continued her preparations for the horrifying torture. I see. Then,
If I'm not Mion, who am I?
A demon.
Huh?
You're not Mion. Mion is just here. Give her back.
Ki-chan, is your brain really doing okay? You're not going crazy with fear?
Don't touch me, you damn demon. Give her back. Give Mion back. My best friend, give Mion back. Mion stood there for a few moments with her jaw hanging open, not having expected me to say that. I myself knew that I was about to go insane. I knew it was nonsense to demand Mion's return when she was right in front of me. But this person in front of me couldn't possibly have been Mion. There was no way I could accept that. So this is what I thought. Mion really had been possessed by a demon and was controlling Mion as if it was a separate personality. Mion was just a victim being manipulated by it. The evil one was really this thing. It all had to be the doing of this demon possessing her. When Mion heard that, she started to guffaw, laughing so hysterically that she started to cough and almost choked.
You really are a piece of work, you know that? In this very moment, Mion Sonozaki is trying to kill you, and you're trying to reject me. I never knew there was such a funny person in all the world.
If you want to laugh, you do it all you want. No matter what you say, though, I won't accept that you're Mion. Give her back. Away with you, demon.
Ki-chan, you're trying to kill me by drowning me in my own tears. No matter what,
I wouldn't lose to that laughter of hers. I shouted loudly. I shouted from the bottom of my heart so that the real Mion trapped inside the Mion I saw in front of me would be able to hear. You can do it, Mion! Don't lose to this piece of shit demon! You're strong! Show me how strong you are! The tears welled up and flooded down her face. Her hands were busy with the restraints, so she couldn't even wipe them. She just let them flow. Please, Mion! Mion! Where did you lose to a demon like this? You're not that weak, are you? Don't lose! Fight! Fight! Mion, desperately enduring her laughter, pressed one of the long nails into the tip of my left pinky. In her left hand was the hammer. At her side were dozens of more nails. I could tell what she was about to do, though, and I wish I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't afford to be scared. That was why I shouted.
Ah! My sides hurt! Like they're about to split. Is that all? I'm going to get started now. Be sure to give her some good screams. Not only am I torturing you, Ki-chan, but I'm torturing Shion as well.
Why? Why would you? Mion! Then I wept. Only sobs came out. They weren't in acceptance of the torture about to be performed, however. They were tears of regret that Mion had lost to the demon. Yet a small change did occur in the Mion in front of me. Her heightened excitement was draining little by little. By the time I realized it, the one in front of me had returned to being Mion.
Ki-chan, this may not be something pleasant to take to the grave with you. You really seem like you want to know, though, so I'll tell you just one thing.
I don't know if this was Mion or just a display of momentary humanity the demon had recovered.
A long time before the demon came to live inside me, I was gnawing at my heart. It was gnawing at my heart, trying to spur me to violence, but I suppressed it with my reason. That settled the demon down, and I got to thinking it had gone away somewhere. As it turned out, I was wrong. It hadn't left me. It had just gone to sleep.
I noticed that there were tears forming in her eyes.
The demon woke up again due to a certain small opportunity. What do you think? What do you think that opportunity was?
There was a sad and yet reproachful light in Mion's eyes.
Do you understand?
I don't. I don't know what gave the demon the chance to beat Mion.
This might be strange for me, a demon, to say, but you're the reason that everything got so messed up.
The tears welling up in her eyes spilled downwards all of a sudden.
At the time, if you had given me that doll without hesitating, maybe everything wouldn't have gotten so twisted.
The doll I got. That doll that I got when we had our club meeting at the toy store that Sunday?
You probably can't understand. I wouldn't expect you to. But, you see, all sorts of things started falling over like dominoes after that, and soon it was just too much for me to control. It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of knocking over the first one, since it was so small, but you're the one who set it up.
That can't... me.
If you hadn't made Mion cry, then I wouldn't have to have waken up. Is that enough? For you to die in peace?
A mistake that I made on that day was what messed everything up. That can't be. That can't... Can it?
It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of it. Even so, Ki-chan, you are without a doubt the cause. If you hadn't nonchalantly given me that doll that day, then I don't think this would have happened.
I wanted to say, like I just remembered something as I recalled that day. Rena had told me about that, and I thought I had apologized. I didn't apologize to Mion, though. It had been Shion. In other words, a god. I hadn't said a single word of apology to Mion. Today I came to this house saying I had something to apologize for, but I never said a word of apology about this. Come to think of it, when I apologized for going into the ritual storehouse, Mion looked a little bit lonely, like she was disappointed. Why didn't I realize that until just now? Rena had told me at the time, and now she herself, no, the demon, was telling me. Is that what the way... Is the only way for a dense idiot like me to be cured to die altogether? I could no longer hold back the hot tears from pouring out of me. I simply just cried and reflected indifferently on the taste of my tears, on the taste of regret.
Can I start now, then? This method of torture is very simple. I'll nail one of these into the joint on the very end of your left pinky finger. Then, I'll nail each one in order until I get to your thumb. And then I'll go back to your pinky and nail one into the joint in the middle. So on until I hammer 15 nails into your left hand. When that's over with, I'll do your right hand next. After that, if you're still conscious, I'll tell you. There are a lot of nerves bundled in your fingertips, so it hurts far more than you can imagine. Some people apparently pass out before you finish hammering 30 nails into their hands, so...
Mion pressed the tip of the nail into my pinky finger. My wrists, my arms, and all my joints on my fingers were strapped in so tightly it hurt, and I couldn't even twitch.
I didn't hesitate at all when I was torturing the others. Why do I hesitate now?
If this will satisfy your demon, Mion. If it will sate the demon, then do what you will.
Are you serious?
Compared to how much I hurt Mion, this is nothing, right? Do as much as you want. In exchange, promise me 2 things. Mion was silent. She did, however, wait for me to speak. After you're satisfied with causing me pain, forgive Shion.
She's been punished enough to make up for her crime of sneaking into the storehouse, hasn't she?
You. After all this, you can still only worry about Shion more than yourself?
The other thing is that when you've had your fill, you disappear. Give that body back to Mion. That's all.
You know, are you not even considering possibly begging for your life or anything?
Can I ask you to promise 3 things instead of 2? The third is to leave me alive.
You said 2 in the beginning, didn't you? So you can't have any more.
That's a shame. In such an abnormal situation, Mion and I laughed quietly together, as if sharing a stupid joke.
I probably won't keep these promises, understand? I'm a demon, after all.
I guess there's nothing I can do, then. I recalled tightening my hands into fists when enduring the pain at the dentist's office. Right now, though, they were opened all the way to my fingertips, so I couldn't even grip them. So instead, I tightened my toes. Okay, do it. I've prepared myself already, so do it. You waiting like this to hammer the nails is scarier. It's going to diminish my readiness, after all. Mion put down the hammer and gently stroked my cheek.
Ki-chan, I'll agree to just the third thing, okay?
Huh? My third wish? To save me? She'll agree to it?
Your first wish, to save Shion, that's long done for. The demon will kill her. It's already been decided, so I can't stop it. So give up on that.
Her delicate fingers slid from my cheek to my chin.
As for your second wish, to give this body back to Mion, that won't happen either. After today, Mion will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, it will be just a body. Because the Oni has taken it over.
That isn't true. Mion is Mion. Don't say such sad things like that she won't ever come back.
Can you hear it? That sound.
Mion gently closed her eyes and listened. I definitely heard it as well. Slam. Slam. It was a dull noise that repeated at fixed intervals. A lone noise accompanied by vibrations. A lot of people were ramming the iron doors to this underground ritual storehouse.
You're late, so Rena probably called Awashi. That spaced-out girl being so quick-thinking was the one thing I didn't anticipate.
I'll agree with you there. Mion grinned like she had been outwitted, then took something that looked like an electric razor out of her pocket. She then pressed the switch. Pale blue sparks flew out with a snapping noise.
You've probably never seen one, right? It's a real stun gun. It's illegal, and its output has been increased quite a bit.
Was that what you hit me with before? That's not a toy children should be playing with, you know.
You're right.
She seemed to want to use the stun gun on me. Unable to move, I felt her press the cool lump of metal into my neck. Slam. I heard a roar as though they'd broken down the first large door. The halls were a bit complex, but aside from the door to this very torture chamber, there was nothing in their way.
I won't kill you, but I will have you go to sleep for a bit, Ki-chan. Awashi will be here soon. This will only hurt a bit.
Feeling the same shock as before, gritting my teeth wasn't going to help very much, but I clenched them tightly anyway. However, just as she did when she was about to hammer the nails in, she hesitated a little. I cracked open my tightly closed eyelids.
I'm sorry for disgracing Mion.
I made a promise before coming in here. Whatever happens, the Mion inside my heart won't change. Look, forget about that. If you ever see me after today, don't come near me. By then, it will be the demon that inherited my corpse. What are you talking about? Just as I tried to say that much, a stronger light than before shined, and like a television being switched off, my consciousness went black. June 1983. A string of disappearances occurred in Hamanazawa Village, Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. The suspect is Mion Sonozaki, probably 18 years old. She is suspected to have kidnapped 5 Hamanazawa residents between June 19th and June 21st, Oryu them, imprisoned them, and killed them. Preliminary investigations on the incident were delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but it was resolved coincidentally something. And shockingly, on the morning of the 23rd, a vehicle patrolling the Sonozaki property heard screams from inside and rushed in as an emergency measure. They secured the suspect missing's younger sister, Shion, and the other 2 missing classmates, Kiachi and Rena. The suspect fled the scene. Nah. Deep in the detached basement of the Sonozaki property, which is believed to have been used to kill those who disappeared, we discovered hair, flakes of skin and blood, and etc. from the 4 other missing persons. We concluded that the missing persons were tortured in the torture chamber. However, their remains have still not been found. At one of their imprisoned classmates' advice, we continued searching the detached basement of the Sonozaki property, which they were imprisoned, believing that they were there. However, we still not have located them or the suspect's escape route. In addition, investigations are continuing as to her participation in the serial freak death incidents of the recent years, thinking it would give some clue, but no evidence that Mion Sonozaki was involved, either directly or indirectly, has been found. There are still many unclear points as to the motive behind the incident, and those of the Sonozaki family and the residents of Hamanazawa have been extremely uncooperative in assisting us. We expect something. The opinion of local officer knowledgeable about the region said that many having been a lynching and internal blah 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 carried out against the beliefs of the Hamanazawa village. It is clear that these incidents are particularly rooted in this region and prefecture police department something. We anticipate gaining valuable clues from the missing person believed to have been in prison from the longest time, Shion Sonozaki, the suspect's younger sister, but her mind was stricken by the grave after effects of the incident, and she has not been in a state of mind to properly answer any questions about what she knows. The psychiatrist concluded that she is in a temporary state of shock, but doesn't seem hopeful that she'll recover today either. Only a few days have passed since that time. After that, I was rescued by Owashi-san and his subordinates whom Rena had called in. Aside from my eerily blank state of mind, I had no external injuries. The most I had was a small burn mark from where the stun gun hit me. As I was having a checkup in the hospital, Owashi-san asked me all sorts of things. I don't really remember what he asked or how I answered him. From what I heard, surprisingly, Mion still hadn't been captured. There was apparently a great many hallways and similar rooms extending out from the depths of the prison. It wouldn't have been strange if she fled through one of those and hidden herself. The one fortunate aspect amidst all this misfortune was that Shion had been safely secured by the police. When I last saw Mion, she seemed like she was going to take me with her and then kill me. So she probably didn't have enough time to, though, since Owashi-san came running in faster than she predicted. That was the only real fortunate thing to have happened. Of course, the rescued Shion, despite having no external wounds, now had a big, deep wound in her heart. She was in a severe state of confusion when they rescued her, and apparently she bit the police officers trying to resist. From what he heard, she was seeing Mion in everyone she saw. Hated not only the hospital, but even her own home, and had shut herself up somewhere in Shishibone, hiding her location. Additionally, in fear that Mion would come for her, she was moving from place to place every day, and even her parents weren't sure where exactly she was. Wherever she was living, even now, Shion was spending her days in fear of Mion's shadow. The police were investigating the Sonozaki's underground storehouse at this moment, since they couldn't find the remains of the other sacrifices. Hadn't Mion thrown the corpses down into a well? I had a feeling I'd said that to him. That meant a hidden tunnel vertically like a well was somewhere in those underground passages. The secret underground without any maps or architectural drawings, which had swallowed up the remains of Rika-chan, Satoko, and everyone else, was still unwilling to speak the truth. I was brought back to that basement again, too, for an on-site inspection or something, but I didn't remember anything of any help. I never wanted to go back there again. For days onward, the Sonozakis living in Okonomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, the big-name Yakuza, would come to our house to apologize, bringing many of their followers with them. However much my parents refused it, they piled up many hundreds of thousand yen bills, calling it consolation money every day. The amount of money grew each day, and after it passed 2 million yen, they were given an envelope containing a letter. I didn't know what was written in the letter. My parents talked about it themselves for 2 whole nights. They decided to move away. Wait, my parents talked about it by themselves for 2 whole nights and decided to move away.
I see. You're moving, huh? When?
At the end of the next month. I won't even have been in Hanazawa for half a year.
I'll be lonely. I'm the only one left.
Rena smiled sadly. If I had just said yeah, I thought it would make her even more lonely, so I changed the subject. Here's something to think about. That's how I broached it. Mion hadn't actually fled, but had been demoned away in the truest sense of the term. Where she went after she had disappeared, that we didn't know. What was there? Where had she disappeared to? I hoped there was a hobby shop dealing in imports like the kind Mion liked. In that place, she would definitely be free from the burdensome fetters of her family, and live not as Mion Sonozaki, but just as Mion, and enjoy herself. Maybe she's already met up with Satoko and Rika-chan. They must also have been waiting for that day Rena and I would join them, spending all their time doing club activities, as lively as they always were. When I told Rena that, she smiled and nodded to me. The incidents the Sonozaki family had been trying so hard to hide, too, were exposed to the magazines from this single tiny seam. The serial incidents of recent years were all pulled up like a long vine in the ground one by one, and for many days news of it was brought up on a talk in variety shows. The shows, which were comedic and silly, never once tried to touch upon the grim, heavy history that Mion had been bearing. It made me mad to see them bringing this stuff up in jest, but there was nothing I could do about it now. How big an impression would these short few weeks I had spent in Hanazawa have on my life? During these few weeks, I met my best friends, and I had the best experiences of my life. I would probably never forget it for as long as I lived. As for the distorted image of Mion that the media created, after the masses grew tired of treating her like a plaything, they would ball her up, throw her into the trash, and she would fade from all of their memories. As one of the few people who knew the real Mion, I must always make sure I remember her. Beyond any doubt, that will surely become my offering to her. The sky reached so far up, and towering cumulonimbus clouds floated through it. The real summer was just before our eyes. Even now, whenever 10 p.m. came around, I would expect a phone call from Shion, or Mion, rather. Now that everything was over, of course, she would never call me. But it was precisely because she wouldn't call me that I was scared of who would call me this time. Plus, Mion still hadn't been caught. I couldn't say for sure that everything was completely over. On the other side of that fear, though, were my prayers that Mion was safe. When I thought like that, I was able to sleep, even with such terrifying thoughts. The lights were off. Before her Her attacking when the lights were off was something that scared me. However, that feeling changed to regret within 2 days. The moonlight filtering through the gap in the curtains shone into the dusk and illuminated a doll. That's right, the doll. That I should have given to Mion that day. She said it was an import from England or something, and was all the rage, didn't she? From what Shion said, it was the most popular among them, the ones that were carrying the fluffy dress, wearing the fluffy dress. After being released from the incident, the first place I went to was that toy store. Everything was apparently sold out because the things on the storefront, besides the things on the storefront displays. I refused once when they had said they wouldn't sell the display products. Blech. Okay, I'm starting to fuck up sentences. Give me a second. I was refused once when they said they wouldn't sell the display products. But when they realized I was a survivor A from that incident, they immediately consented. Of course, even if I bought it, I might never have the chance to give it to her again. Even knowing that, I waited for the opportunity to give it to her. I waited like this for the opportunity, with it on the desk so I could give it to her at any time. Plonk. There was a weird noise. It was a noise that I wasn't used to hearing. It was too big to be raindrops, and it was completely different from the sound lost bugs make when they ram into fluorescent lights. I figured I must have misheard it and nestled back onto my futon. Plonk. The noise happened again. I wasn't hearing things. I definitely heard it. Where was it coming from? I got up and turned on the light. If there was a second, there would be a third. From where, though? I listened carefully. Plonk. The window. Some sort of pebbles were colliding with my window. When I realized they weren't being blown there by the wind, but rather being thrown by a person, I gave a start. I looked at the clock and it was 2 a.m. Who would it be at a time like this? I quietly peek out front through the gap in the curtains. In the light at the gate, despite it being so late, I saw someone. They picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at this window. It hit the window and made a plunking noise. Who was it? Ah. I caught my breath in surprise. If my eyes weren't deceiving me, that person was Mion. I threw open the window and looked at the figure again. My eyes were certainly not deceiving me. It was Mion. It was Mion. She was alive. Mion pressed her index finger to her lips and made a shush motion so that it wouldn't shout. If she hadn't, well, I was nearly about to cry out. Mion was in a very delicate position right now. Even if it was the middle of the night, I shouldn't call out her name. I waved to her, gesturing that I'd be right over, flung my coat atop my pajamas, and flew out the door. I quickly hit the brakes just before going down the stairs. Although happiness was sprouting within me, I had the sad feeling that this would be our final parting. So I went back to the room again and grabbed the doll. If there was a God, I don't think I would have ever thanked him so much as today. Even if it would be the last time we ever saw each other, I was so grateful for this one chance to give it to her. I slipped into my sandals, unlocked the door, unhooked the chain, and leaped out of the house. Mion. It's been a while. How are you? Been doing all right? It was like how we used to meet every morning. Mion waved to me and responded like she always did. It was doubtlessly Mion. It was the real Mion. Are you all right hanging around this place? I really shouldn't be. She certainly wasn't acting like she knew the police were following her. It was almost like she was a patient who had gotten tired of staying in the hospital and snuck out. Her speech was relaxed enough to make me think that, and I couldn't help but be surprised. That relaxation, I thought, was more like Mion, and I was happy for it. Anyway, what's wrong? What do you need at this hour? I wanted to talk to you one last time. That was when I noticed them. On Mion's forehead were big droplets of sweat. Her expression, too, which I had thought to be a satisfied smile, was upon closer inspection trembling slightly, and I realized that she was forcing it. Well, I can't stay for any longer. A pained note was beginning to enter her words as well, as if just smiling was a feat for her. Are you all right? Are you not feeling well? I tried so hard until now, but I can't tell. I'm done. This is my limit. They're about to come up from behind and take me away. Mion's smile crumbled and started to stiffen. Did she push herself this much to come all this way for me? Her laughter cut off and clanged it into rough breathing. I reached out to rub her back, but she knocked me away. Are you okay? Don't force yourself. Oh, that's right. I had something to give to you, Mion. This doll. I had wanted to do this one last thing because I knew how little time you had left. But this last thing, it... My stomach is burning. Mion took a meat cleaver, like knife, and stabbed me. And pushed it in tight, and took it and twisted it. Me. Oh. Hey. What? It hurts. I made it. I made it. I cowered on the ground. My stomach was so hot. It was almost spewing fire. Mion watched it, and then took a few steps back and cackled. I've done it! I've done it! I've done it all! That's everyone I wanted to kill. The last words Mion left with that day come back to me. After today, Mion will never come back. From today on, even if my body is here, all a body is all it will be. By then, the demon will have taken over. The demon. The demon. The demon. Me. Oh. This can't. I thought we had finally been able to meet. This can't. Mion. In a pool of my own design. Blood of my own design. Is the doll I brought for Mion. Dyed red. So red. Mion. The good fortune of having been allowed to meet Mion once more. And the misfortune of that meeting being torn apart before my eyes. Should I be grateful? Or curse it? My emotions were neither of those, as my consciousness sunk deep into a black swamp. The doll I brought for Mion, the blood, had ruined it. No matter how I scrubbed and scrubbed, it had needlessly been ruined. The sad moon was so white, it looked frozen. June 28th, 1958.
A violent incident occurred in Hamazawa Village, Shishibun City Prefecture. The victim was Kiichi Mibara, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. At around 2 a.m., he was stabbed in the stomach with a bladed object. The suspect of the last case, Mion, was gravely wounded. He was discovered when his parents woke up and was transported to a clinic. He escaped death. The criminal fled the scene. Wait, Kiichi still didn't die from that? On the same day, at approximately the same time, a fall accident occurred in Kimisi apartment complex in Shishibun City Prefecture. The victim was Shion Sonozaki, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. Late on the same night, neighbors overheard her having a big fight with someone and informed the manager. The manager used the master key to enter the room and discovered that the victim had fallen from her 8th floor balcony to her death. The room had been torn apart and appeared to show traces of a fight. One neighbor was frequently visited the Shion Sonozaki house for a long time and testified that he heard what sounded like the two sisters having a fight, trading insults back and forth. We believe this was related to the injury case that occurred the same day in Hamazawa, perpetrated by thorough search of the room. We could not find any traces of what would imply anyone but the victim was present. The victim fell straight down to the foliage of a parking strip. Her neck broke and she died immediately. Her clothing was disheveled and markings that would imply a scuffle. We also believe, however, that it could have been an insanity-induced suicide attempt based on the particular mental state of the victim after the incident. We are conducting a thorough examination in both fronts, suicide and homicide. Only for 5 minutes, understand? Please try not to excite him.
Yes, I'll be careful.
Clack. The door opened. Oh,
Yes, I'll be careful.
I thought it was going to be Rena. Sorry, predicted. Whatever. The door opened and as I expected, Iwashi-san came in.
Hello, Mahibara-san. It's been a while, hasn't it? Tell me, how have you been since then?
The doctor says my post-operative recovery seems to be going smoothly, but I think I got worse when I saw your face.
You wound me!
As Iwashi-san gave a laugh and that smelled of sweet, he handed Mom a bag of assorted candies he must have purchased from the souvenir corner on the first floor of the hospital.
Excuse me, Mrs. Mahibara. Would it be possible for me to talk to Kiichi-kun for just a few minutes?
Mom clearly wasn't pleased at the thought of a police officer talking to her son without her there. However, I insisted. Mom, sorry, just a little while. Just 5 minutes, okay? Though grudgingly, Mom left the room. When she closed the door, Iwashi-san grinned widely and looked around the room.
A room to yourself? How high class! My old lady is always getting a shared room. My old lady always gets a shared room, you know. It's quite lively, however. She seems to like you're a higher rank if you get...
Wait.
Seems like you're a higher rank if you get a worse disease in a place like this. The sicker you are, the prouder you are, or maybe you're more arrogant.
Iwashi-san, we only have 5 minutes. I would like it if they were the last 5 minutes we ever saw of each other. I don't have any connection to Hamanazawa anymore, and this isn't in Hamanazawa anymore either.
Yes, because there aren't any general hospitals in Okinawa. Mind if I take a seat? Down we go.
This was a large university hospital in Shishibun City. It was splendidly urban, entirely different from the likes of Hamanazawa or Okinawa. It was hard to believe Hamanazawa was part of the same city.
When does it look like you'll get transferred?
Dunno. I'm ready to go whenever, though. Our moving plans were delayed a little because of my serious injury. My parents had already left the house in Hamanazawa, though, and were living in our new one. They planned to have me transfer hospitals to be closer to the new house once I'd recovered enough to be taken there. Please don't come to where I'm transferring. I really will get worse then.
Man, you really do hate me. It may just be my job, but that stings. That's why I brought you all kinds of lovely souvenirs in atonement.
You didn't need to bring in an assortment of cookies for that.
Well, you see, there aren't actually cookies in there. Look.
Higurashi-san pulls open the can of cookies and...
Ow!
Ow, ow, I'm stretching my scar.
I didn't know that you were into... Well, fucking shit. I didn't know what you were into, Mahabara-san, so I brought all sorts of things. See? All sorts of cute-looking ones, from westerns to comic strips. Lately, they've had this sort of H-manga aimed at girls, too.
Don't bring porn in here! Take them away and go home!
Well, I thought for sure a healthy young person like you would be feeling a little needy being so cooped up in a place like this for so long. If you stay here too long, the only fetish you'll end up with is a nurse one, you know. There are plenty of other beautiful things in this world besides nurses, after all. Don't decide on what to major in now. Keep your options open. You need to be an more all-around type of person.
I gave Iwashi-san's vulgar laughter a pained grin. Somehow or another I understood. The fact that Iwashi-san was bringing it up like this meant that he must have had something important to talk about.
The incident with Shion-san really was unfortunate.
That night I was stabbed by Mion. Shion fell from her balcony and died. They say the police were investigating all possibilities, accident, suicide, and homicide, but it could have only been Mion's doing. Mion found out where Shion was hiding and pushed her down to her death. Nothing else was conceivable. It couldn't have been an accident. It was Mion. It had to be.
The criminology guys are saying it had to be a suicide, but I'm of the same opinion as you, Mahabara-san. She pushed Shion-san and also stabbed you. In one night.
Has Mion still not been found?
Oh, that's right. That's what I came here to tell you today. Yes, we actually did find her.
What? Learning that felt rather strange to me. I was partly relieved that the incident was truly over, and that I was partly sorry that my best friend had finally been caught. I felt many other things, too. My heart was a maze of emotions.
That's not all. In the Sonozuki House catacombs, we found a hidden well. Just as you said, Mahabara-san, we found the remains of all those who disappeared at the bottom.
I see. That sliver of hope, that possibility I'd believed in that Rika-chan and Satoko were alive just from the fact that their remains hadn't been found, was gone.
It was incredibly well hidden in those catacombs. I mean, it was in the blind spot of another blind spot. It was a vertical tunnel dug out like a well. There was a ladder set up there too. When we went all the way down, there was another tunnel built there going through it. When we followed it a few hundred meters, we found ourselves at the mouth of an old unused well in the mountains. I wonder if it was a secret escape route a previous Sonozuki family leader built. Probably was. Maybe it was made in the Meiji era.
Wait. Whatever. Probably was. So everyone's remains were at the bottom.
Yes. Even deeper down than the escape path, there was a pool of coal tar. They had been casually thrown into there. They had fallen from a fairly high spot, so their remains were totally buried in it. It took a bit of time and effort to pull their bodies up.
Did you find them all? I hoped that at least they wouldn't find Rika-chan or Satoko. That's what I wished for when I asked, but my shallow hope was crushed in the blink of an eye.
Yes, all of them. In fact, we also found human bones that we think are over a decade old. We think there may have at least been 3 people. I suppose it's the dark side of Hamanezawa's history. I wonder how many people's bones will find and suck them all out of that mud. That's the scary thought.
The weight had been pushing down on Mion's shoulders the whole time. Mion.
We currently identified people who disappeared from Shishabun City decades ago. People are talking about how this opportunity might let us resolve the disappearing persons cases that haven't been abandoned.
After a deep silence, he breathed a heavy sigh. Iwashi-san went for his cigarettes to pass the time, but realized that it was a non-smoking area, so he gave it up and put them back in his shirt pocket.
Oh, right.
Whoopsie-daisy.
This is a bit of a detour, but you know Rika Frude-san, right?
Of course. She's my friend.
Did she ever tell you anything along the lines of her regularly taking insulin injections for her diabetes?
Rika-chan has diabetes. I didn't know what he was talking about.
Actually, we found it in her shirt pocket. A syringe. It was destroyed, though, so we couldn't identify the medicine. It was a bit out of place, so I got interested. You really don't know anything.
I don't know anything about Rika-chan carrying syringes around with her.
The Sonovisaki family corporates, the Yakuza people. Anyway, there's rumors that they deal in psychostimulants. I was thinking that it might have been something to do with it, too.
Are you trying to tell me that Rika-chan is a drug addict?
No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. It seems strange, however, you look at it, that she would bring a syringe with her on her way to get soy sauce.
I have no idea what any of this means. My eyes are spinning. I feel sick.
Are you alright? Should I call a nurse?
I'm fine. Please, continue.
Well, that's all I had to say about the syringe. It was the only thing that personally struck me as interesting.
Rika-chan.
Rika-san is sort of like the village mascot, after all. It looks like the village is in an uproar right now. Between the older blind believers and Sonozaki family who killed her. The three families' effective control over the village is basically in shambles, too. If someone came up to them with talk of a dam again, with this sort of timing, the entire village would be abandoned for sure this time.
I'm not related to Hamanazawa anymore. I actually was. I just said that because it was the one... I just said it because the thought about Hamanazawa being abandoned was unpleasant, and I wanted to end the conversation quickly. There was a knock at the door. It opened slightly, and my mom asked if we were still talking.
Whoops! Went off topic, didn't we? What a pickle.
I looked at the clock. 5 minutes were long past. He told my mother that there was something he really wanted to ask, and if she could wait a little bit longer.
Is that so? Keep it short, okay?
There wasn't any getting around the fact that she wasn't thinking about that she was thinking about the police officer could be talking to her son about. I fucked up that sentence.
Maybe we should choose another day for this.
Iwashi-san, Mion, how is she right now? I wanted to just hear that answer and get rid of him.
Before I tell you that, I need one thing from you. I just need you to answer something in all honesty.
What is it?
I want you to take your answer seriously, got it? If you say something indiscreet, it could be viewed as an obstruction of the investigation, and you could be prosecuted.
Iwashi-san kept threatening me until the end. What the hell did he want?
Mayabara-san, who do you think the criminal who was pushed Who do you think was the criminal who pushed Shion from the balcony?
There was no way it could be anyone but Mion, is there? Actually, Kiachi, it really could have, because those 2 points in location are really far away from each other.
Then who was the one who stabbed you?
Please don't make me say it again. It was Mion Sonozaki. Iwashi-san smiled bitterly, then dabbed at his forehead with a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He should have expected that answer, and yet it looked as though he wasn't satisfied with it. She pushed Shion and stabbed me. Didn't you just admit yourself that Mion was the criminal?
The evidence we have that Mion killed Shion is based on testimony from a man living next door. The neighbor's actually a member of an organized crime group, so in other words, he was Shion-san's bodyguard. It seems like he's a veteran leader of that vein and was like a parent to the Sonozaki sisters growing up.
That man said this. The noise he heard from the next door was just like the sound of a fight between the sisters that he was used to hearing when they still lived together. And no, there was no doubt about it. He said he heard Mion and Shion insulting each other and heard them struggling. At first, though, he thought it was a hallucination he was having, brought on by her dementia. You see, he thought that because the sort of ruckus had been occurring every night. However, that night had been longer than the rest, and he claimed that he went to her room to give her a sedative. The noise died down while he got the manager to give him the key. He already decided that he'd at least check up on her, and after she wasn't answering his calls, they took the plunge and unlocked the door. Then they saw that the room was a mess. Since Shion had been pushed over the balcony, they decided it had to have been Mion. And that's how it happened.
In other words, he only heard from the other side of the wall. Plus, because the apartment complex is connected to their organization, it doesn't have many residents. So they were the only ones who had heard it happening. To reiterate, there was only one person who witnessed Mion Sonozaki.
Even if he did see her, isn't it obviously Mion's doing?
Now settle down. This is what I'm saying. It means you are the only one who saw Mion Sonozaki for sure that night. After all, Shion-san, the other witness, is no longer alive.
What are you trying to say? I don't really understand. At that point, Iwashi-san paused. The fact that this was a no-smoking area completely slipped his mind, and he took out a pack of cigarettes again. Kerclack, he lit one with his lighter, and exhaled a long stream of tobacco smoke.
Were you really stabbed by Mion Sonozaki?
Yes. There's no doubt about it. The smoke Iwashi-san breathed out floated away like a thundercloud swept away by the wind. Iwashi-san, you can't smoke in here. The nurses will get mad.
Actually, we found Mion Sonozaki at the bottom of that well, too.
What?
She fell to her death. We believe that as she was trying to escape that hidden passage in the well, her foot slipped while climbing down the ladder. She fell to the bottom. She broke her neck and died. Yes. The same way as Shion-chan. San. She broke her neck.
Well, what?
After you passed out that day, Mion Sonozaki tried to escape using the hidden well, but her foot slipped and she died. As if beckoned by the corpses of the other sacrifices, she dropped down there.
But that doesn't make any sense, does it?
The autopsy came to the conclusion that she definitely died on that day. She didn't go back there after attacking you and Shion-san. She was already dead by then.
My jaw was on the floor. There was absolutely no way that could be. Mion was the one that stabbed me. It had to have been her. There wouldn't have been anyone else to do it. Then, who attacked Shion and me? Who was it?
The one who attacked you was someone who was Mion Sonozaki, and yet not Mion Sonozaki.
My mind had become a complex mess, and I was starting to lose my ability to think straight.
Do you remember how Mio Takano-san died?
Takano-san? Yeah. I think I heard that she was burned to death in some distant mountains.
We learned that she was burned after being strangled to death. The Gifu station did the autopsy. It's a little bit strange. The results of the preliminary autopsy said that she had been dead for at least 24 hours. Since that was contradictory, in their panic, they seemed to have revised it to say she died earlier that day. Despite me being an absolute wreck over what was going on with Mion, he was telling me there was even more on top of that? I didn't understand the complex things Iwashi-san was telling me. The results saying that she had been dead for over 24 hours as our own good... The results saying she had been dead for 24 hours, as our own criminologist says, is pretty damn reliable. So then, what would that mean? I've asked that question over and over. But on the night of Watanagashi, you were with Mio Takano-san, weren't you? I was. You also met her on the day before while setting up for the festival, right? I mean, I ran into her too. Yeah, I was with her then. If she had been dead for 24 hours, then that would mean she was already dead the day before the festival. That can't be. She was alive during the festival preparations. However, when you all slipped into the ritual storehouse, Takano-san was already dead. The origin of all that happened, the beginning of everything, our intrusion into the ritual storehouse which I had come to regret countless times, the one that tempted me, Takano-san. When she invited us into the storehouse, she was already no longer of this world? There are too many dead people walking around in this incident. An incident caused by a dead person and ended by a dead person. Also, apparently, they're under pressure to revise the time of Mion Sonozaki's death, not to the day of the incident, but to right after she stabbed you. Probably pressure from the outside to get this incident wrapped up already. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't say a word about this to anyone. Iwashi-san grabbed his jacket that was hanging on the chair, put out his cigarette and with the bottom of his foot, and started pretending to wave away the smoke floating around. I've stayed too long. I come here thinking I could at least end this incident as it applied to you, but it looks like it got even more baffling instead. Absent-mindedly, he walked towards the door, looking at me unable to speak out of the corner of his eye. If it so happens that something comes up you want to talk about in the future, call me any time. My business card is in the souvenirs from before. When that time comes, I'll pay you a visit with the same wonderful souvenirs again. Iwashi-san seemed to think I was still hiding something. That I, after all this, would be hiding something? I'm the one things are being hidden from. I'm the one who wants to know. Then let us meet again one day. Take care of yourself. Slam. I listened to the tap, tap, tap of Iwashi-san walking down the hallway. I still couldn't return from my state of bewilderment. He wanted to end this incident as it applies to me. What was over? Nothing was over. The incident was still continuing. Then, slip. An arm covered in fresh blood came out from underneath the bed. I wasn't that surprised. This was an illusion I was seeing, seized with fear. Ki-chan, I told you, remember. I heard a guttural voice coming from underneath the bed. I still recognized it as Mion's voice. What? Mion, what did you tell me? I warned you on that day. After today, if you see me, it will be the demon that has possessed my body. You did say that, didn't you? Sorry. I guess I wasn't careful enough. That's why I got stabbed. Possibly wounds sustained when she fell from the ladder. Many of her fingernails were broken and torn. Her arms slowly felt about the top of the bed, searching for mine. Oh, hey, Mion. I thought of a good joke. Want to hear it?
Mion under the bed didn't answer.
Let's say that I died here today. But tomorrow, I'd still be here living a normal life. So, when Ozawashi-san learned about it afterwards, the time of death wouldn't make sense once again. He'd make a huge deal about how someone who should have died was alive and he was totally lose his mind. Ahead. Takano-san, then Mion, and then me third. So, funny, right? Makes you laugh, doesn't it? Ki-chan. Laugh. Or was it not that funny? Mion's bloodstained hand groped around and found my wrist. Though her fingernails were torn, she gripped it hard as if scratching me. Ow, go easy. It hurts. Ki-chan, I've come for you. I tried to shake my wrist loose, but the strength she held it with was unbelievable, and I couldn't. She was only gripping one wrist, and yet my whole body wouldn't move. I couldn't even twitch. My fingers were spread apart, and I couldn't make a fist either. And that fact that I couldn't make a fist reminded me of the restraining table. I felt a crooked nail pressed against my left pinky fingertip. Mion's forehead was split open, and with a face covered in blood, she smiled and got right up in front of my nose. Nothing was over. Nothing was over. The incident was far from being over. It was still going on. It was still happening. Someone please end this incident. This cruel, tragic, unfortunate, sad incident, please end it. That was my only wish. I granted you one before, remember? You don't get any more. Mion firmly held the nail down on my fingertip, and with her other hand she slowly swung a mallet up in the air and... All cast review session. So, that was the single longest episode ever, or so far. It's interesting. What to think? I don't know if it was me being disappointed by the twist that it wasn't Shion, but it was just Mion the entire time. But I still liked it, and it still made sense in a way. What's puzzling me now is how much of was only that end bit with like Corpse Mion coming and him back in the restraining table, was only that part of his hallucination at the very end there, or was none of that in between stuff real? Like from the point where it went flash white, like it flashed white like the police had broken in and everything from there to up until the point where it ended. Was that all not real? Did that all not happen and was just like a delusion Kiachi was undergoing? Like right before he got nailed? Nailed. No, it really doesn't make sense that way. It kind of makes more sense that he just went crazy at the last bit there. And he saw Corpse Mion, or maybe the demon in Mion's skin coming. Wow, I'm still unsure if I want to say that Watanagashi proves that there is actual demon possession, but that's still kind of unsure. The biggest point of note is Rika-chan with the syringe. That is the most interesting part of that little last bit. Because the syringe is kind of a thing that was happening in Onikakushi. It's what Mion kept trying to, like, at the very end, what Mion was trying to kill Kiachi with was using this syringe on him. And I assume because in Onikakushi, the syringe with the drugs is what killed Takano-san or Toмотaki-san and Kiachi at the end, because it makes them go crazy and kill themselves. I think. So that's very interesting. I'm wondering if maybe Rika went to Mion's house not entirely unknowing that she was going to get in some kind of conflict. Maybe because he said that the syringe was crushed. Man, I don't know. Man. It is so annoying to have this story leave me with so many questions. And I'm wondering, obviously this doesn't seem like it's the real timeline either. It feels like it's very much another Okanikushi, where it's its own self-contained story. Especially since it ends with, like, everyone dies. Rena kind of gets out of it without anything happening to her. I'm surprised at how little Rena there was in this, but I kind of like the fact that she wasn't a part of it, like that she wasn't insane and doing the whole crazy stuff. I mean, this video is already long enough. I'm going to end this here. I'm going to ruminate on some of this stuff. You can expect one more episode after this, which will be the extra episode where I do the wrap up with all the characters, like I did for the Onikakushi. We read all the tips. We did everything. If you've been watching up until this point, thank you so much for watching my playthrough of Higurashi When They Cry Watanagashi. I know for a fact 07th Expansion and Manga Gamer is releasing the rest of this series coming out. I don't entirely know when the next one will be coming out, but you know from me that when it does come out, I will be sitting here and I will be recording it yet again, because I enjoy this world and I enjoy all of the characters. Every single one. Rena, Mion, Rika, Satsuko, new character Shion. Owashi's just fun as hell to read. Toмотaki doesn't really stay around long enough, but I can't hate T-Dog-san, which I only called him like once in this episode because I finally learned how to say his name properly. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed this story. If you enjoyed it a lot, please support the developers of these like remake remasters and go purchase the game for yourself and read it through yourself and come to your own conclusions with how you read it. They're only like, I think like $10. It's not the most expensive thing in the world. So if you enjoyed it, I very much suggest you go and purchase it yourself. The story's not going to change, unfortunately. I mean, you've been spoiled, but if you want to keep having these come out, you need to support the developers who make it happen. So, thank you very much for watching. Until next time,